Hey, everybody. I just want to take the time today to give an honest review of CognitiveFX. Now, to give an honest review of CognitiveFX, I need to give you the full story. And the reason I'm doing this is if you're anything like me, before you spend $10,000 and you're doing all the research out there to try to find the best concussion recovery place that you can find because you want your life back more than anything, you're looking at all the reviews, you're watching all the YouTube videos, you're like doing all of the research, and you're just overwhelmed with information, and you find CognitiveFX. Now, CognitiveFX seems like the holy grail for concussion recovery. And while it is for some people, it's not. It's not the. Unfortunately, it's not the cure-all for what everyone needs. So, like I was saying earlier, let's get back to the story of how I got here and how I got my injury. So it started back in, wow, a long, long time ago. It started a long, long time ago. So it started about, long story short, I'll spare you the super dramatic details. What happened, it's kind of hard to go through. Delete all this if you drew it. So what had happened was I used to be a pilot. Man, in a different life, I was a pilot. I flew almost every day. I was one of the better pilots within my peer group, and I really strived on being the best pilot out there. And one day I woke up and I just felt different. I felt odd. I felt off. This is a really long story, so I'll hit to the point. So I had a brain cyst. I had a cyst in my brain, and it was causing severe, like crippling headaches, nausea, vertigo, poor memory. Then obviously the onset of anxiety and not necessarily depression, but kind of like not as stoked for life. And the symptoms were intermittent. They would come, cripple me, and then they would leave the next day. And that continued on for a couple of months until it got to the point where they were there almost every day. Now, there were some days where I felt fine, and those days I cherished greatly. And what drove me to surgery was the fact of I did all the research. I stopped flying. I dropped out of school. I quit my job. I devoted everything to find a cure, to find a way back. See, I devoted everything to find a way back. And that led me to a neurosurgeon down in Houston, Texas, a gentleman called Dr. Kim, Dr. Don Kim. Now, before I went to go see Dr. Kim, I obviously did my due diligence, and I went to the local doctors, and the local doctors freaked out and sent me to a neurologist. The local neurologists were like, "It's all in your head, you're depressed, get over it." And I knew deep down I wasn't depressed. And if anything, I was depressed because I felt like shit, and no one was helping me. Just imagine that. You feeling horrible just all the time. All the time. You feel different. And what's scary about the brain, and what's also kind of a blessing in disguise about the brain, is that you can be feeling like shit neurologically, but aesthetically, physically, you look fine. And while that's a good thing in a sense of kind of like, blending in and kind of looking normal and not being judged by your injury, it's a bad thing that people don't really take you seriously unless you have cancer, unless you have a brain tumor that's malignant. And, so I had a pineal gland cyst, which is incredibly rare, especially for men. Well, it is rare and it isn't rare. It is rare to have them symptomatic. It's not rare to have them at all. So the neurologists locally were like, "That's not your problem, dude. That's not your problem." I was like, "I want to talk to a surgeon. I want to get this thing cut out." So they referred me to a local neurosurgeon. His name was Dr. Saforin. Dr. Saforin, yeah. Down at Tuolity. Tuolity is the western suburb of Portland. It's in Hillsborough. It's the hospital in Hillsborough. It's called Tuolity. So I went to Tuolity. Immediately, I was like, I don't want to go to this guy. I'm sure he's a very skilled surgeon, but I don't want my surgery to be at a community hospital. A community hospital? I was like, no, I'm better than that. I want the cream of the crop. So I chatted with him, a phenomenal gentleman, a great surgeon, I'm sure, but I let the stigma of the community hospital deter me from going through the surgery with him. Had he been at a prestigious hospital, such as OHSU or such as any of the UT, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins, UCLA, yada, 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 you get the idea. Had he been at a major hospital, I went down to have the surgery, but since he wasn't, I was reluctant to go to him because I was like, their care is obviously subpar because they don't have the interior doesn't look as good. That's complete bullshit. So if you're thinking about going to a good hospital, or any hospital for the matter, don't let the interior design deter you, which is kind of a common fallacy that I think a lot of people fall into. They take it for face value, and they're like, well, if they can't invest in comfy chairs, or if they can't invest in like the modern, the latest, greatest, futuristic aesthetic things in the hospital, then the surgery must be subpar. I don't know if it's true or not, but I don't think it is. So realizing that I wanted surgery and I wanted to find an answer. Oh, I wanted surgery because I needed to find an answer. And all the research, all the scholarly text, everything I found, so that if you have a symptomatic pineal cyst, or if you have a pineal cyst, if you have all of these symptoms, everything in you is completely fine. Everything's fine. Your hormones are fine. Your stress levels are fine. Your whatever else is fine. There's no cancer. There's no other cause of this. If everything else in your vessel, in your you, is fine, the only thing wrong is you have a mass in the center of your brain, which is where the pineal is located. For those who don't know, hopefully you don't know, because it's, I wish I didn't. Let's just say that much. So yeah, if that's the only thing wrong with you, is you have a lesion there, which is a fancy scientific word for a mass. If you have a mass there, I mean, it's got to be it, right? Like, what else could it be? It's not psychosomatic, which is a fancy word to say it's all in your head. You're psychologically creating these symptoms, which is a real thing. But I think it's very rare for people who have pineal cysts, the cysts are rather large, for them to be psychosomatic. I think it's genuinely a symptomatic lesion in some cases. So, like I was saying earlier, how a lot of people have pineal cysts, but not a lot of people have symptomatic ones. And while it's challenging for surgeons to find the symptomatic ones, it's because you can have a 2 centimeter cyst and be asymptomatic, having no symptoms, or you can have a 1 centimeter cyst and be symptomatic. So I was like, okay, well, shit, who do I go to? Like, what do I do? What the fuck do pardon my language, but like, what do I do? What do I do to get back to me? Get back to the gentleman who flew all the time, who was confident, who was charismatic, who could articulate anything. How do I get back to that? And that led me to, like I was saying earlier, a gentleman named Dr. Kim. And I went to go see him. He's in Houston, Texas. He's the director of neuroscience in the University of Texas. Likely knows his stuff. Director of neuroscience in the largest medical campus in the world. I'm like, he's the guru. You know what I mean? He knows brains like no one else knows brains, right? And what's beautiful about this guy is he specializes in like one thing. Like that's his niche in the market, in the brain surgery market, if you can call it that. That's his niche in the world. Is he just does pineal gland cysts, to my understanding. He just does that. Well, I'm sure he does other surgeries with the cases, whatever. But the majority of the patients that come to him, like 80%, I'd say, are pineal cyst people. That's the cream of the crop. That's like pretty much what he does. I'm like, okay, so if that's what he does, then he has more experience than anybody else in that. And experience, what I correlated it, experience correlates to better outcomes, right? Right? Makes sense, exactly. I thought the same thing. So I went down there and saw him. Beautiful building. And you feel so secure when you're in that hospital. You feel so safe when you're in the hospital. It's like the doctor's office is like 40 stories tall. It's something crazy. It has a beautiful view of downtown. And then you have the actual hospital, which is across the street, which looks like a resort. And you're like, what? Like, they have to know what's going on to have all of this stuff and have all of these minds working in the same building with the only purpose is to give you a better quality of life. And I'm like, these people know what is up. And this guy is one of the top. I used to think he was one of the top 3 pineal cyst surgeons in the world. There's Dr. Teo, Dr. Kim, and Dr. Patel out in South Carolina. I've now learned that's baloney, because it's, if you're a neurosurgeon and you are a skilled neurosurgeon, you can figure out how to get in there and do what needs to be done. You don't have to just be a specialist in that area. So, whatever. I went to Kim because I watched his surgical videos. I fucking did all the research. Everything looked good. And I was like, this is the guy. I was like, yeah, it's not endoscopic. Hashtag regret, really regret that. Should have gone endoscopic in hindsight, but hindsight's always 20/20. But I was like, I talked to like 10 of his former patients. They're all like, dude, do it. Do it. My only regret is I didn't do it sooner. And I'm like, sick. Okay, if your only regret's you didn't do it sooner, sign me up. Let me get my life back. I want to have that surgery. I want to risk it all because my quality of life right now isn't what it should be. And this surgery, you've never lost anybody, and you've done like 5,000 or some crazy amount. You've done so many, and you've never lost anybody. And you've never had an adverse outcome. And I'm like, dude, sign me up. Let's go. Let's do it. All right, take it back. There was one thing that could happen. There's one thing that could happen. Obviously, you could die on the operating table, but he's never had that. And if you don't die on the operating table, then the only other thing that he thought could happen, which is based off of 30 years of experience or something, is you develop hydrocephalus, which is excessive fluid in the brain. Not a big deal. They put a shunt in, you move on in life, and it's completely fine. It sounds scary, but trust me, a brain injury is far scarier than a pineal cyst, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So, surgery went well, woke up, newfound life. I'll make another video about what that was like to wake up out of that sleep, to go in, to accept brain surgery, to let go of life. Just to let go. Say goodbye, write goodbye letters, kiss your girlfriend one last time, and then just to let go. And to know that God has you, or you're spiritual, whatever you believe in, to know that there's two outcomes here. I'm either going to die, and I'll never experience that, so I will not be afraid of that, or I'll get better. And I'm like, okay, so the only thing that could really happen is I get better, because if I die, I won't know it. You know what I mean? So what's the worry? Went in. I'm going down a rabbit hole. Like I was saying, a different video on that. So, got the surgery, woke up, felt beautiful. It was like a light switch. I was back, articulate, calm, confident. Internal dialogue was just amazing. I was super quick-witted. Memory was beautiful. I felt so good. No pain, no nausea, no confusion. Everything was back, and I was like, I'm back. Time to change the world. And rode that wave, felt good for about 48 hours until I hit my head using the bathroom by myself. You can't see it now because I'm sitting down, but I'm a tall man. I'm 6'5". And I felt so good, the nurse let me go to the restroom by myself. And I'm like, sure, like, okay, yeah, I can totally go pee by myself. I didn't think anything of it, right? Didn't think anything of it. I was like, yeah, I'll totally go pee by myself, no worries. So went to go pee, sat down. I remember walking into there. I walked into the room, and I was like, this is where people get fucked up. This is where people get injured. They slip, they fall, they hit their head, they're never the same. I'm going to sit down to pee. I'm going to be extra cautious, extra careful, just to do this one time. Just aside from the morning, so let's be honest, who wants to aim in the morning? Regardless, I was like, I'm going to sit down to pee to be extra safe. That's, you know what I mean? Obviously, that's a good idea, right? Makes sense. Let's be extra cautious. Even though in hindsight, I don't know how peeing could really make you uneasy, but, you know, whatever, it's besides the point. Sat down to pee, did what I had to do, and then I stood up. Just stood up off the toilet. Guess what was waiting above the toilet for me? A shower curtain rod. Strategically located. Probably 6'3". Above the shower, or above the toilet. 6'3" above the toilet. And they let a 6'5" man go to the bathroom by himself. What do they expect to happen? What do they expect to happen? So I hit my head. I hit my head 40 hours after deep brain surgery. Yeah, huge oversight in the hospital's portion, that's for sure. Yeah, it was unfortunate that really happened. Honestly, it's really unfortunate that happened. So initially there was no symptoms. I actually laughed about it. I was like, of course I hit my head. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, of course. And this was obviously before I knew the depths and the scary, scary hole of a brain injury. I didn't know anything about that. I was just like, you know, brain injuries happen to people who, like, fucking get in snowboarding accidents. Like Kevin Pierce, who, like, just wiped out, caught his toe edge, and just face planted with, like, tons of energy. It had to be. Like, this dude got really wrecked. And I was like, that's a brain injury. You know what I mean? You don't get, like, post-concussive syndrome. Like, what is that? A concussion, something. Sucks for a week, 2 weeks, and it goes away. So I laughed about it. I was like, of course I hit my head. You know, being 6'5" and an active man, I hit my head in everything. And I told my neurosurgeons, too. I told Kim and his resident, student, doctor. Well, he's a real doctor, a real surgeon, but he's not like a fully licensed, I guess you could say. And told them to. And they were like, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. It should not affect you at all. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, cool. No worries. Told the nurses, they're like, yeah, don't worry about it, dude. How do you feel? Fine. I was like, okay, don't worry about it. Didn't worry about it. And leaving the hospital, still felt fine up until the point where I sort of leave the hospital. I misspoke there. Sort of leave the hospital. You have to leave the hospital in a wheelchair. It's like company policy. You have to leave in a wheelchair. And I'm like, I feel fine. Like, get in a wheelchair. I'm like, what? Like, so you have to get in the wheelchair? And I'm like, okay, sure. Get on the wheelchair. And them rolling me onto the elevator, that jostling, just that shaking of the wheelchair, I blacked out for a second, 2 seconds, like not long at all. Enough to, or quick enough for the people I was with didn't even know I blacked out. I woke up, I was dazed and confused, and before I could articulate what happened, the brilliant woman pushing me pushed me back out the elevator. I blacked out again, and I came to, and this is not an exaggeration. This is literally what happened. I went from dancing in the hallways of the neuro ICU, the neuro intensive care unit, being so happy my life is back. Everything will be good, to hallucinating and crying in the lobby, begging for help because something has gone terribly wrong. And I knew that. I was reassured by doctors that they're like, this is normal. This is fine. Like, this is normal. Like sometimes people just, they experience a lot of pain or they leave or they get emotional. That's probably what's happened. That's what's happening to you. And I was like, no. Like I was just fine. And now I'm hallucinating and I feel horrible. Something's wrong. And they're like, no, sir, it's fine. You're fine. I'm like, you know, in my dazed, confused, hallucinatory state, I wanted to believe them. So I did believe them. And I think a takeaway from that point that I hope you use in your life is if in your gut you know something is wrong, do not let anyone, I don't care what degree they have, what school they went to, anything about them, who they are. They could be the president. They could be anybody. Let's hope they're not, whatever. We don't have to get in politics. They could be anyone. And if you know something's not right, believe in yourself because something is not right and no one knows you like you know you. I wanted to believe that everything was okay, even though I felt like it wasn't. The people I was with, they didn't step up. They didn't step up. So there's that. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And here I am, still feeling weird, still feeling off. So long story short, again, I know this is a very long story. We've already been talking for 20 minutes. So if you're still with me, thank you. If you want to skip around, like no hard feelings. Yeah, so after running the gauntlet with hospitals and neurologists and doctors and telling them that I don't feel right, something's wrong, they tell me it's all in my head again. And I'm like, what? Again, it's all in my head? And I'm like, come on, guys. Like, you think I'm just doing this for fun? Like, you think I just really, really enjoy spending tens of thousands of dollars going to doctors and getting scans and getting prodded and getting my spine stabbed and all sorts of invasive, painful, expensive procedures? You think I just enjoy that? Like, you think that's what I want to be spending my summer on, what I want to be spending my time on? Got no help. So I was like, okay. In a roundabout way, and we've already gone 20 minutes, I'll just give you the full story. So, or the full story as I could tell you. I should probably get going, but it doesn't matter. I can push things back. So I ran into a functional neurologist at a dinner, and she was like, I can help you. So I went to her clinic, did her thing, really helped me out until I went drinking and I went out partying the end of the treatment because I felt good again. I was like, I'm back again for the second time. So I went out, partied that Saturday. So I went up, there was a week-long course, Northwest Functional Neurology. They do something called RTMS, which is the fancy magnet they put next to your head that excites your neurons in an attempt to get the regions of the brain that aren't firing again. I'm like, sounds like some deep science. Did my research, checks out. There's no adverse effects, no increased risk of dementia or anything else like scary like that. So I'm like, sick, let's send it. Did it, felt great. Friday came around, it's a week-long course. Friday came along, I was like, I'm back. Cried with tears of joy, thanked the entire office, made a huge scene. I loved it. And I was like, words fail to describe how excited I was then. So obviously I took the girlfriend out partying. We went out dancing, had a phenomenal time. And that Saturday I woke up and I felt like shit again. Everything that I tried before went away. And I was like, okay, let's find the best of this again. So that led me to CognitiveFX. Did their treatment. I was a little underwhelmed by it. I had like a 2.3, 3.2, something like that going into it on the FNCI. Leaving, I had like a negative 0.8, and I was like, sick. So by all your units of metric, by all your measurements, I should be feeling great. And they're like, yeah, dude. Yeah, totally. I'm like, sick. They're like, just give it a week, give it 2 weeks, and be feeling like yourself. And I'm like, dope, let's do it. All right, cool. So, 2, 3, 4 months went by, and I was like, yo, I still feel like shit. Like, what's going on? And they're like, that's all we can do for you. Like, okay, of course. I'm getting off topic here. So the review of CognitiveFX, let's go back. That's the whole point of this. The review of CognitiveFX. It's an amazing facility, and it does a lot for a lot of people. To kind of walk you through what's going on, because the entire purpose of this video, I know we're approaching 20 minutes long, and the entire objective of this video was to tell you about CognitiveFX. So here I am. I'm a patient. My name's Evan Brown, and I went to CognitiveFX for a week back in October. I was actually over there for Halloween, so it was a little fun, little festive for the girlfriend and I. We were out there visiting in Provo, Utah. So the premise of CognitiveFX is they utilize the blood flow within the brain. They use something called a functional MRI, which is essentially a moving MRI. It takes a picture of your brain multiple times, and they piece it together and create essentially a video of your brain in motion. They utilize that technology to get something called a FNCI, functional neurocognitive imaging, which watches the blood flow within the brain. So their theory, the premise to my understanding, I'm not a neuroscientist, there's super brilliant people who do work there who are neuroscientists, so I'm sure it's really grounded and really rooted, but to my understanding of it, the premise of their treatment is function follows blood flow. So you look at the blood flow of your brain, and they compare it to the blood flow of a healthy brain, of someone who hasn't hit their head or hasn't had a stroke or damage or whatever the case is for you. And they compare the healthy, and they compare you, and they're like, okay, you're deficit in these 3 areas, and you're overactive in these 2 areas. So they give you exercises, they tailor that week to get the regions in the brain that are hyperactive, that are overexcited, overproducing blood, or not producing, but overutilizing blood to tone down a bit, and the regions of the brain that are underutilizing blood to bring it up, to bring their levels up. It happens in a week. It's crazy. It's amazing what they can do in a week. And at the end of the week, they scan your brain again to see how you've done. And you can get negative, which is better. The metrics of that, I don't really understand statistically speaking how you can be better than that. If there's like a baseline, if there's an average, but besides the point, there's way out of line, and then there's in line, and then there's superior, ideal. I was in the ideal range. I started out here way in right field, way out of whack. A lot of stuff was hyperactive. A lot of stuff was underactive. Got it. Find the homeostasis. Had the scan. Felt great. And I was like, I didn't feel great, but I was like, the scan says I'm good. I should be feeling good. So I went home, continued doing my exercises, and I didn't really feel that well. I didn't really feel that big of a change. And time went on. And I didn't feel that much better. So before I tell you about what I did that implemented, I think, more change than CognitiveFX, I want to continue my review on CognitiveFX. And I apologize that my video is a little all over the place. As someone who's experienced a concussion, I'm sure you can relate and you can empathize with me. Also, this is my second YouTube video I've ever made, so I'm sure I'm a little new talking to myself on a camera. But the staff at CognitiveFX, phenomenal people, amazing people. There's a gentleman there named Mike. If you see him, let him know Evan says hi. He's a phenomenal man. He's also suffered a brain injury, and he's feeling loads better from going to CognitiveFX. And he also works there so he can empathize with you. CognitiveFX has helped out thousands of people, and there's, as you can see on their YouTube channel, there's so many success stories, and there's so many people who go there, and it's like a light switch. They go there, they feel like shit, they leave, and they feel amazing, and I'm like, that's got to be me, right? I'm healthy, I'm, you know what I mean? Why wouldn't it be me? And so there's tons of people who go there, and it feels great. There's also a lot of people that go and don't have the miraculous change that they expected to. So that's kind of where I fell into the category. I dropped $10,000 of money I really didn't have, I really couldn't afford, because I was like, I want my life back, and this is what it takes, and I'll do anything. I would do anything to have my life back. So I went in, shelled the money, didn't have the best results. a place that I've found afterwards that I think has done more help for me. Obviously, every injury is different. Some people just need CognitiveFX. Some people just need this place I'm going to talk about. And some people need both. And maybe I'm the both. I don't know. So I went to CognitiveFX, brought me up to like 50, 60%. You know, I was feeling good. I could hold a job, felt fine. Like I feeling, good subjectively, but not who I was, where I was, and what I know I'm capable of. I wasn't there yet. And so led me to a place called Mind-Eye Institute. After a lot of research, I found a place called Mind-Eye Institute. And there's a book you can read about it. It's called Ghost in My Brain. I flipped through it. I read the highlights. Wasn't the biggest fan of the book itself, but the idea of it is absolutely outstanding. A little summary about that is there's a gentleman who was a professor at a university, got in a car crash. Life fell apart for 8 years, and he found Mind-Eye Institute, and within like 8 weeks of wearing the glasses, he was back. So I was like, let's go. Got to send it. Let's check it out. So I went there, and I've got to say I'm very impressed with what the glasses have done for me. I've actually got the glasses on my head right now. I'm not wearing them. They're a little broken. I laid them on the bed, and then the girlfriend laid on them, so that was a bit of a drag. But those glasses have done so much to help me. And personally, I think they've done more than CognitiveFX has. So if I were you, I would recommend going to Mind-Eye Institute. It's $2,000. They utilize the only place in the world you can get that kind of technology. And I'll spare you the nitty-gritty details about it, because just check out their website. I'll include all the links down below for Mind-Eye Institute, CognitiveFX, and a Facebook group for people who have gone to Mind-Eye Institute, so you can kind of like talk to them to see what they think about it. And yeah, check them out. Check out their videos. If you have any questions about it, let me know and reach out. So before I go, and again, I'm kind of all over the place, but before I go, my review with the glasses. So I've got them about 2 months ago, and I've been feeling loads better. I used to be nauseous all the time and have terrible headaches, just feel like out of it, feel like the kind of outer body experience that I'm sure you know very well. Just feel like that all the time, and I was like, yo, I don't know how much longer I can keep going like this. This is horrible. This is literally horrible. So I went there and got these sweet little glasses, and instantly, the moment I put them on, the world was calmer. I wasn't back or anything, but the world was calmer. I wasn't as anxious. There was less stuff moving. And yeah, I just started feeling better week by week. I started chipping away at the shell that was encapsulating me, the person I knew was still in there. And I'm actually flying out to Chicago in 2 weeks to go back to Mind-Eye Institute to have another visit to get a new prescription that I'm hoping is going to bring me even higher. So I'll keep you posted on that. And if you're like me, I will do anything to find my me back. I will find a way back. You will find a way back. Believe in yourself, believe in the journey, and be appreciative for the lessons this is teaching you. If you ever need anything, comment below, message me directly. I don't check YouTube all that often, but I will start, and I will make it a message. I'll make it a point to be there for you and help you through this journey. And I wish you nothing but a full recovery. Because if we can make it back, when we make it back, the perspective we will have on life, having gone through this, will be profound. The change we can implement in our families, in our romantic lives, in our friendships, will be profound. And the effects of this will ripple through them. And I truly believe we can change the world. Maybe not on a global scale, but we can change the world for people in our lives, and it can ripple out and hopefully touch the lives of others and others and others, and just continue out like a spider web, with you being the focal point, with the perspective you've gained having gone through this. I wish I had a cute saying or like something cheesy to end it on, but I don't. But I guess just something to remember is, without darkness there can be no light. I think that's the right way to say it. I'm not sure. Nevertheless, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. And if you have any research links or anything, post it down below. Let's figure this out together and keep in touch. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. See ya.